So it is a trend called the quarter zip trend, right? And yeah, the quarter zip movement. And it started with young black men, young men, and it's like a sweater and they call it quarter zip because it's the pullover sweater and it's like a zip here. So it's very professional looking. So you have a lot of young guys changing from streetwear to professional, you know, business attire and making it trendy. Cuz listen, if you look good, if you dress in a certain way, present yourself a certain way, certain mentality, networking, business and stuff like that, something positive, especially when we're talking about young black youth, boys and men, young men. So, and I like it and I support it, and they're doing a lot of videos like on TikTok and social media, you got the look, button up pants, everything, throwing that away, dressing professional, something that you will approve of, right?
Yeah, I mean, put the uniform on and let your deeds speak for you, rather than you're being garish and vulgarly outrageous with what you've got on.
Right. Love it.
And by the way, the biggest thugs have on the most expensive suits and ties.
That is true too, because those are the
And you
vicious
can
ones.
go anywhere, Pretoria, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya.
And get
Uh,
respected.
yeah, you can get Moscow, Tokyo, Beijing, wherever you go in the world, you get the biggest crooks. They have ties and shirts and suits, sport coats, slacks, and they're sharp and they have on the uniform.
So, with that said, right? So, this is a trend that started, I think, last week or whatever, and it's still going strong. And I wanted to stay, and because it has to be embedded, get that mindset, present yourself in a nice, mannerable, professional, clean looking way. But there's always, it seemed like women are hating. So, this video of this chick hating on these young men that are doing the quarter zip trend, saying that,
Oh, really?
yeah. Okay.
I thought she'd be approving. Oh, come on. Let's see what
So
she's
listen to
got to
what she
say.
says, and then I definitely want you to comment on it.
Like, maybe I'm too woke, but I don't find the quarter zip shit funny because I also didn't find it funny a couple years ago when all those black men put on suits and then stood around in suits. I don't understand what men in general, but especially black men's obsession is with defining themselves by their clothing and not really actively doing any. It's not deeper than just like, well, we can put on suits. I can also put on a suit. What is the point that you're trying to make here? Like, it's like costume. Like, let's dress up as the social idea of success or productivity or decent, productive human being. I don't know. I don't even understand what y'all are trying to communicate to us. Y'all are constantly like essentially dressing up as white men. Like, that's kind of the underlying idea. Suits, quarter zips, like associating yourself with this like stereotypically white style. Hello? Do y'all not see how that's one, offensive to you as a black person, upholds white supremacy, but is also reductive of your like humanness? I don't know. It's like everything all the time with them. Nothing latches.
She's stupid.
That's one of the most ignorant things I have heard in a long time. And it's a classic example of not whether somebody's a fool, but how big a fool can a fool be? Now, it's a white thing. Well, what about all those Africans in Pretoria, Nairobi, Nigeria, Cairo? You talking about the Jews in Israel, and you talking about the Soviets now, the Russians, and Moscow, and Paris, and Rome, and London, and you're talking about Vietnam, and you're talking about South America, you're talking
What about
about Australia, New
what about them?
Zealand.
What about them?
They all have suits and ties on. So how in the hell are you gonna be dumb enough fool to say you're trying to act white, where everybody on the planet Earth, white, black, brown, red, yellow, wears a suit and tie when they've got something going on in their life besides being a fool, hopefully not trying to appeal to a dumb heifer like this who acts like she has lost her bloody mind, and you wonder what the hell somebody like her, a bit older, has done to their sons or whatever boys they may have had on the side. So, yeah, this is so stupid.
And she has on a blonde wig with fake eyelashes.
And what do you say? What did Malcolm say? Processed head. All that bleach up there shows a processed mind, which she just spoke and revealed. And she's got these barn flappers where she can, when her feet hurt, I guess she can flap her eyelashes and
Lie.
she'll lighten up her load because she's almost airborne. Fool.
Right. And so
And
she's
the roots are showing. You didn't even get your roots together. You're tacky. Tacky it.
and because she's saying, oh, they're just gonna be standing around. What?
No, they look like they want to work.
Right. And they're like, let's network, let's do something, let's start a business, it's a lot of look, the way you dress 9 times out of 10 is how you're going to present yourself and act in society.
Dress for success. You go to a function, and whether it's white, black, or brown, red, yellow, anywhere in the world, and everyone from the waiters waiting on the tables to the guys at the head table are all dressed the same. And why does everybody have the same thing on, the tuxedo? Because it's a uniform. It shows you belong to manhood. That white shirt, that collar is the last piece of male body armor. The leathernecks, aka United States Marines, they wore leather collars so they didn't get their carotid arteries nicked by somebody's light sword. You see that bozo the clown ruff that you see in Elizabethan times? That was to guard your neck. You see those folk that wrote the Constitution and the occasional black man that was
Mm-hmm.
well off with that
Yeah.
around their neck. That was to protect your neck from a sword stroke. So that tie, that collar, that's the last piece of male body armor worn. And it is symbolic. The whole thing about the suit's symbolic. It's functional, it works, and it's appropriate to anywhere. So you want to go look like you're a thug, and then man, they was picking on me, man. Man, they didn't have no right, man. Well, you were driving around looking like a thug. Your vehicle you were in, the license plate was expired 3 months before. One tail light was out, and you had your music up loud enough to hear it 4 blocks away and share with anybody in somebody else's neighborhood who didn't want to hear it. You were smoking some joints, you and your three homies, and you were riding low in a neighborhood you looked like you didn't belong in because everybody out there had on suits and ties, or at least casual additions thereof when they were off work. So, yeah, you look like a thug, you get treated like a thug. And by the way, two of the stone coldest killers I ever met in my life. One was a former Tuskegee airman. He always was vying down with a custom made suit, shirt, and expensive tie. and the other one was a tenured professor who used to be a hitman for the mob 55 years ago.
Hmm. Well, have you ever been to Martha Vineyard?
I have.
Hmm. Ralph Lauren, he created a whole line um, paying tribute to Martha Vineyard, Oak Bluffs, and HBCUs. And so when we talk about dressing, I just wanted to share this. When we talk about dressing, you know, how they dress during back in the day, a certain time, a certain point in time in America, in Black America, and you're talking about the height of Jim Crow and segregation. Men still dress, and women dress with pride, presenting themselves with pride, right? With all the obstacles that they were facing. So to see young Black men really go back to those roots of how you present yourself in a upstanding professional manner, right? I don't like to see women, particularly Black women, talk about she's too woke and they're stupid. They don't know what they're doing. They're playing into white
That
supremacy.
was a Negro woman, not a black woman.
Negro woman, right? And I'm starting to see that trend with them more and more. And it's this woke mess, and they don't understand what woke really is. And if you understand history, American history, Black history, or if you talk to any of your elders of Black people, what was it like back then? How did you survive all that? Without affirmative action, before the civil rights movement, how did you live? How did you present yourself? Raise your kids or whatever. So again, it seemed like we lost something. And I always say this: men have to lead the community and the family. You have.
Yeah, and you look like you're ready to go,
Yeah.
whether you're going to war or whether you're going to make money.
Right. And
You
so
look like you're ready.
right. And I was concerned to think and looking at Gen Z, even millennials, are they ready to lead? Right. So to see a trend, because everybody's on social media, especially with the younger generation, to see a positive trend that's going to reflect how you live your life, how you present yourself in society, wanting better, being a businessman, being a leader is very important. But I don't see that respect coming from Black women.
Yeah, it's see, black women, not black women, Negro, female Negroes are much a part of the plantation system. They helped make King Cotton all powerful. They were bed wenches who were trying to gravitate up to being plantation mammies and managing the Negroes who were the domestic animals on the plantation, and they still do it. And the fact that they are not talking about showing pride in men dressing appropriately to their masculinity is why so many of them promote looking like hippo Lizzo rather than a decent woman. See, I grew up where when you worked in a factory, when you were a delivery guy, you had on a tie. And you didn't mess with these men because they'd been in Korea, World War II, and World War One, or they came from that same culture and they would take you out. So it's like the schools were peaceful because you had all of these white, black, brown, red, yellow men who were school teachers, didn't take, what did you say, boy? Come here. I dare you. Come here. Dare you. Say it again. They don't have that now. They got a bunch of sissies running around that they get pampered and They run around looking like little wild thugs, and they ain't about nothing. They don't look like they're gonna make any money. They don't look like they're in charge. They certainly don't know how to take orders. And like the military has long said, you aren't fit to give orders unless you know how to take them. And they aren't fit for much of anything except being put in penitentiaries and making other folk a lot of money while they're in there.
Right. It could have been a even a wino on a street back in the day will have a tie on or something. So, it's yeah, it's listen, I'm glad to see young black boys, young black men and young black men taking that initiative to push out that positive content. And
Yeah,
they
and take a look at some of the old footage from Harlem or
oh,
Chicago or for Los Angeles and see what the young black men were on grown
they were
black
looking like
men were
they
wearing.
wore that. Yeah, they wore quarter zip sweaters or whatever. I don't know. I don't think they called them that back then. But again, exactly. So definitely they need to keep it up and then expand it to okay, with dressing, now let's start creating a business or going to school to be lawyers or whatever. So it has to start somewhere.
And
So
Obama boy started it on the pathway down the wrong way. Here's the president of the United States of America, and he doesn't have a tie on.
okay, so that was one time and I kind of thought
Not
that
one time, a lot of times. And what else he did? Bobby, what do you have to say about this? Mary, tell us about Mary. We're so glad you're here. And Mary is 87 years old, and she's been wanting somebody to call her Ms. or Mrs. for her whole life because they've been calling her Mary. And here's the president of the United States could have made this old woman's just float, and
mhm.
he calls her Mary. I saw this actually. Some woman that I was remotely acquainted with, she came out of the rural South and she says, I'm just so glad, young man, that you called me Mrs. Ain't nobody ever called me that in my whole life. And here's Obama showed up and she was at the function and she said, oh my God, I was just so excited the president of the United States was going to recognize me. Well, what happened, ma'am? Why are you crying? He called me Mary instead of Mrs. Thomas, and a
people
bunch of
people
us.
people think they have the authority to be very familiar with
Yeah.
people.
And then the other thing is, Sue, when you get that way, you don't have to show respect for the accomplishments of others. Everybody's supposed to be the same. When you've been to jail several times, you ain't done stuff, you dropped out of school, and you're supposed to be on the same level with somebody who really busted it. I get this thing right now, and sometimes I get mad. I think about all of the black men that did not get advantage of any affirmative action program, but they got their acts together and they got ahead, got through the colleges, universities, got to be in positions of power. And I'm looking at all these folk who had it handed to them because they had the paint job and they haven't done a damn thing with it except mess it up, like most of the elected officials that are running these blue cities.
Right.
So it's kind of a disgrace. You have your manhood, show it. You have your masculinity, demonstrate it. But they want to sit there and they want to be garish like they're girls and see how loud and colorful they can get. It's kind of crazy.